Hey guys, this is Sharad with REsimpli, host of the REsimpli podcast. Have a very special guest today on the show, Tony Cook. Tony, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited to talk anything real estate.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. Yeah, before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're joining in from, how long have you been doing real estate investing, and what kind of investing are you doing?
Yeah, so actually, originally from New York, so I grew up there in Rochester, moved down to Maryland in 2013, been down here ever since, and currently I'm running a property management company called Bay Management Group. We
Awesome.
started in Baltimore, back when I started in 2013. I think there was already about 900 doors or so. We currently manage 6,500, 6,600 and there's four different markets: Philly, Baltimore, Northern Virginia, and DC. We're currently looking to grow some more, and that's kind of what I've been doing day to day. I'm the COO here, been here. I'll be 11 years in a couple months. Aside from that, I do invest in my own rentals. I haven't done a ton. I've done 8 of them currently, and I've done a couple flips. I just got into that a couple years ago, just kind of doing it on the side. Got sick of seeing my index funds just kind of not go anywhere, so decided to jump into some rentals. But other than that, I really focus a lot of my energy on running and growing this management company.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely excited to, dig into property management side. I own a property management company. We were talking before, starting
Yeah.
the podcast. I have about 200, 225 units. How did you get into property management? And you guys have scaled a lot, in last 10, 11 years. Like just walk us through on how that happened.
Yeah, I actually landed in property management. I went to school for accounting. I went to RIT up in New York. Thought I was going to go the CPA route. Back in 2009, they changed some laws where you had to do more schooling. And I grew up broke, man. Didn't have much money. I was working 40 hours, going to school full time. And I'm just like, I need to work. I need to start making some money. And so I got a job at Morgan Management. They are a family-owned property management company. They've got like 50,000 doors or something like that. I was working as a staff accountant there for a year and a half, and then my wife wanted to move down to Maryland. And so we moved down here, and I wanted to stay in property management. And I started as an accountant here, and then the controller left. So I took over kind of running the accounting department. There was only 4 of us. Within a year, the owner approached me and said, I don't have the bandwidth to run the company and deal with growth at the same time. How do you feel about being the COO? And I said, of course. Like, I've never run a property management company back in 2016, but I can learn. And so I shadowed him for, honestly, like 2 weeks. It really wasn't much. And just podcasts, YouTube, articles, whatever, books,
I
just
love it,
learned
man.
everything
I
I
love
could
it.
know. Became obsessed, man. Absolutely obsessed. My wife probably didn't appreciate that fully, but became super obsessed with it. And yeah, man, everything else is history. In terms of scaling it, we literally focus on SEO, and that's just about it in terms of marketing.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
people think we're crazy. Like, wait, you're doing no outbound, zero outbound. We've never done outbound.
Wow. That is
Um,
incredible.
yeah, we don't do pay
Wow.
per click. We don't even go to events. We literally SEO, and that's the way to go. And we spend a
Wow.
ton on that.
That's amazing. So SEO targeting investors that are searching for property management companies.
Yep, not just so
That's
yeah,
amazing.
investors, we get a lot of accidental landlords too. I don't know if you get that with your business. We do have a bunch of investors that bring repeat business and then new investors come in, but we get a lot of accidental landlords where it's, someone got divorced, there was a death, there was a job transfer. We got a lot of
Right.
military people in Northern Virginia and
Okay.
DC.
Yeah.
And so then
Okay.
they go away on 3-year assignments and like, I can't manage this while I'm in the military. How the hell? And so they come to us and they don't really know much about having a rental. They're not in a position to sell it and they want to come back eventually.
Okay.
So yeah, we're targeting
Yeah.
with keyword searches
Yeah.
through Google.
That's amazing. First of all, congratulations on all the success you've had. I used to be an accountant. I ended up actually getting my CPA before they changed all the laws around it. So
Nice.
and in my opinion, like accounting is one of the best degrees you can have for business, for running a
Yep.
business. It just, at the end of the day, I strongly believe that if you know the numbers, you're going to have such a good way to run your business, and accounting is a great, background to have. So,
Yeah, I
but
completely
that's
agree.
amazing, man. Yeah. So you guys are managing everything from single family residential properties all the way up to like, I assume like large multifamily, correct?
Yeah, most of our portfolio, I'd say 65 to 70% of it is single family homes. And we've got condos, townhouses, detached
Right.
homes, just, row homes in Baltimore scattered about. We have a couple commercial, maybe 10 units total. And then we have 2 units up to We've got one that's like 225 units. We've only got 3 properties that are over 100 units. Everything else,
Okay.
we like the 1 to 99 units is our niche.
Okay. Got it. Wow. So you guys have a lot of properties that you're managing. It's not like, like 10 big apartment complexes with 500, 600, like
No.
this. That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
that that makes it even more impressive
Yes. It's hard.
how many different like properties you're managing. Wow.
But
I want to
but it,
get into that, but before we do that, I want to talk to you about, so you became COO 2016, you said,
yeah.
right? So
Yep.
you've been CEO for 8 years, and you guys have had incredible growth from the time you started 900 units to like 5,500,
6,500.
6,000 units, 6,500.
6,500. Yeah.
Wow, that just walk me through. I'm really curious about some of the growing pains you had. As like I'm sure there were lots and lots of challenges because again, like it's amazing. It's so impressive that you guys don't have like these 20, 30 large apartment complexes that you're managing that makes up 6,500 units. These are like lots and lots of separate properties. I mean, like the logistics of managing all of this, property taxes, like utilities, I can't even imagine. So I really want to like learn about that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, so it starts with an accounting team of 25 people, so that helps. We've got auditors, compliance people. But anyway, so let's kind of go back a little bit. So when I started, I was the 12th employee, and he was understaffed at that time, I could tell. He didn't know it, and he was running lean because that was his full-time job. That's what he was doing. And so I knew we were stretched thin, which was fine. And so I would say the first up until 2019, and then COVID actually helped a lot, and we'll get into that. But up until 2019, we were short staffed. There's no doubt about it. We were working our asses off. Pardon my French, if I'm not allowed to swear.
No,
But
you could. Yeah.
I was doing. I mean, I said I started in accounting, but I was picking up the phone. I was answering the door. I was going to properties. Whatever I needed to help with, I was doing it. Accounting's not always fun, so I was like, okay, I've done all my bank recs, I've done the entries, I've posted cash. Like, I want to go do something in the field. Can I go on an inspection? Like, I was just very curious. And so it started out that the owner was doing all of the new business by himself and managing the other 11 people as well, if that's what you want to call it. He was never in the office. So it was kind of a free for all. I was one of the 3 people, I would say, that wasn't taking advantage of that. And so the pain initially when I started, I wasn't in management, but it was, man, like, there's no leadership. There's no, like,
Yeah.
his work ethic is extreme. Like, don't get me wrong. There's just, oh my God. But there's no one here to kind of keep the ducks in a row, so to speak. There's nobody,
Right.
people are leaving and they're not even working. It's like, what is going on? So
Right.
that was some early on growing pains. But then when he put me in place, it's like, man, we didn't have policies. We didn't have procedures written down. We didn't have a lot of things. We didn't
And
have a,
these are all W-2 employees that you guys have.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
And so people didn't even know about like PTO and stuff. It's like people who just didn't know that they just go to him like, hey, what do we do when we have this situation? And so he was constantly answering questions that could have simply been documented. And so we
Right.
started doing, like, some of the pains were employee handbook. Like, we didn't even have a handbook. So I'm like, we got to get one. Like, staff need to know these things. We had a hard time recruiting people. So when you're small, people are leery sometimes of going to work for a small company. We didn't have many benefits. All we had was
Yeah.
PTO. That's it. No health insurance, no 401k, no nothing. And so you're taking a leap. And what he did was he would pay more money for your salary. So we were in, market rate, we were overpaid, but we didn't have benefits. And so, once we got to a point where we had enough units where he felt comfortable to kind of be like, all right, I'm just going to keep focusing on business and growth. You run this thing. Then you run into new challenges because now you've got your company's getting bigger. Once we hit 50 employees, now there's new laws that come into play, at least in the states that we're in, where you now have to provide benefits. You have to give a
Interesting.
health insurance, even if you don't give a portion. So we didn't know how to manage benefits. Nobody in our company at that time knew how to do it. And so we kind of just had to fall on our face and figure it out. And then, our whole pitch when we were small was, hey, we're a mom and pop shop. We're from the area, we're local, come work with us. And we did, and it was great. But now, the pitch has changed over the years. You can't really say that because it's not true anymore. Now
How
we're
many
much
employees you guys have now?
215.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
215. Most are overseas. Yeah, we're in
That's
Mexico and the Philippines. We can get into that if you want. That's a big one right there. But yeah, we're up to 200 and something people, and without all of the technology and infrastructure we've put in place, we'd be in trouble. And
yeah.
we had to create positions out of thin air. Like we never had recruiting in-house. 2 years ago,
Okay.
our
You
managers
guys
were
are
recruiting.
recruiting in-house, right?
Yeah, we were paying 20 grand to bring somebody in. It's like, holy crap. So we went out and hired a full-time recruiter, and he's bringing in 200 people a year or so with churn, and then he's got two assistants now. So no longer do the managers, that was a growing pain. Back in the day, you're managing your team, you're working 40, 50 hours a week, and you're doing recruiting for your own department. So it was
I can't even
just,
imagine.
oh,
Yeah,
people were
I can't even
quitting.
imagine.
Yeah, managers weren't happy. It's like, this is insane how much I have to do. And so we went out and got a recruiter, and everyone was just like, holy crap, I can breathe again. Just give me someone
Right.
good and I'll run with it from here. But now we've gotten to the point where we're so big, we need a training department. So that's new. It's like people are coming in, property managers, and depending on which office you're in or who trained you is going to kind of define, in addition to your own skills, kind of where your performance is at. If you were trained by that person there, that's not the best trainer, but that's all we had at the moment. You're kind of given you're given the shorthand there. But if you're trained by that person, you're going to be a rock star automatically.
Right.
Um, so we took that person and made him our trainer, and so now they are training all new property managers, which has been really, really good for us.
It's amazing. One question I want to get into is, so we have employees in 4 different countries, and then we have
Nice.
like freelancers from other countries. And then a lot of our listeners have, people in Philippines that they work with. Like, how do you build company culture across people from different countries? Has that been a challenge? Like, how are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, and so I'll kind of back into this. So when COVID hit, that's what made us switch. So
Right.
we were all local, 100% local, and I think we had 160 people, 170 or so at
Wow,
that time,
that's a big, decent sized company.
all
Yeah,
local.
yeah, all local. Yeah, wow.
We were crammed into offices, man. I'm talking elbow to elbow,
Wow.
cubicles, like, and we were working out of row homes in Baltimore City. Like we had three offices that were a triangle, like across the street from each other. So you'd have to walk over to accounting, walk over to the property managers, and it's
Oh
like, all
my
right,
God.
we need a bigger space. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I forgot
Yeah,
your
about the
question.
culture across different
Yeah, yeah,
people from
yeah.
different
Okay.
countries. Yeah.
Yep. So COVID hit, we were already set up to work remote. Like if I was sick, I'm like, I'm not going to call out. I'm just going to go home and work. Like I at least want to get my work done. I'll lay in bed. I don't care. But anyway, so when COVID hit, people were quitting. Our maintenance techs didn't want to work. They didn't want to go in homes. Leasing agents didn't want to go show property. Property managers were very overwhelmed with the amount of people that weren't paying rent and the fact that we could not evict people due to, the CARES Act and all that. And so we said, you know what? Let's just try something we've been talking about for the past 2 years. Let's go overseas and see what happens. And so we got with an attorney for like 2 weeks straight at midnight phone calls, which was noon their time, and just hashed everything out and figured out what we needed to do. But we first were like, you know what? We know what to do, but we're going to try working with some agencies. So we did work with 3 different agencies for the first 6 months or so. We basically what I did is I learned everything they do. I'm like, I'd pick their brain. How are you guys recruiting? How are you managing? What software are you using? In my head, I'm like, because I'm going to go do this myself eventually. Once these people are done with their contracts, they're going to move over with us and we're going to kind of keep it moving. And so Hubstaff is one really good way to do it. And I'm sure there's other
Right.
platforms. So it's a software that's taking screenshots of their computer.
Yeah,
So
Hub stuff is what we use. Yeah.
yep, you can see
Yeah, we love
their
it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's been big. We have morning coffee breaks. A lot of departments will meet up with their whole teams, new coffee breaks. We do things like monthly meetings where they'll kind of get together and do like games and things like that. We do annual Christmas parties and other parties like surrounding holidays. The last 3 years we've done like a talent show on on Zoom. So we've
Oh
got people in
wow.
the Philippines and dance studios. Like we got a guy in Ecuador that does like wind sailing, and he posted a video of him wind sailing. And so the key
Nice.
is and I have an assistant in the Philippines who's phenomenal. The key is don't forget they're there, right?
Yeah.
I'm working at home right now, and so there's nobody around here, but I'm communicating on Microsoft Teams constantly with a lot of people, and I tell managers, hey, there is no like water cooler conversations because they're not here. So what you need to do is make sure you're nudging them periodically, just randomly throughout the day, be like, hey, so and so, how's it going? Just, nudge
Yeah.
them. If you got a minute, you're slow for a minute, just nudge them, see what's up, check in on them.
Right.
The big thing with the Philippines, I cannot stress this enough. They want you to know about their family. It took us a year to figure that out. Like, because in the US, we do, coworkers will talk, but there's a
Right.
lot of people that don't. They want their private life
Right.
separate from work.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, and my assistant taught me this. She's like, you got to ask people about their families. We're so family oriented here. If you're not asking questions, congratulating them, et cetera, it's a big deal to them. And making sure they get off for their holidays, not necessarily just the US ones. And so
Right.
that's kind of how we do it. But we also, our managers are great. They're approachable. We don't have negative people in our company, I would say. Maybe there's 2 out of 215 or so. It's basically a deal breaker for us. If you're a negative
Yeah.
person at our company, someone's going to bring that to my attention or somebody else's attention that can do something about it. And ultimately, if it doesn't change, you just can't work here. So we try to keep a very positive environment and protect that culture. And
Absolutely.
the other thing, give them time off. Like a lot of VAs, people like to call them, give them time off. Like they're used to going through agencies where they're getting paid $4 an hour, $5 an hour. They get no time off. We gave them 3 weeks, and their jaws hit the table. We didn't do it initially, but when we did that, they were literally in tears. Like, we're not used to this. Like, unbelievable. Like, we're actually treated like staff. Like you guys
Right.
care, and that's the big thing. Treat them like they're actually part of your company, not just someone living in another country.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I have we have a decent sized team in Philippines. I actually flew to Philippines a couple of months ago,
Nice.
and we rented an Airbnb, had everyone flying from like all different islands. So that was a lot of fun. That
That's
was a lot of fun
cool.
to do that. Yeah. So do you have an entity set up in Philippines? And then
No, nope.
okay, so I mean they're on payroll, but they're sort of like independent contractor, is that correct?
So they start off as independent contractors, and then after a period of time, we move them to a PEO company.
Okay, what's a PO company?
God, what does it stand for? Something PEO. It's like the employer of record, but I forget what
Okay, okay.
PEO, to be honest with you,
Okay,
stands
okay.
for. Essentially,
No
they
worries, no worries.
handle all the payroll stuff, and
Okay, okay.
we pay them a management fee. But the staff are still basically reporting to us. It's just
Got it, got
all the
it.
taxes are taken care of.
And how many people you have in Philippines now?
Philippines probably 60 or so.
Wow. Wow. And they're all working from home remote.
Every single one of them. Yep,
Nice. Same thing
every
in
single one.
Mexico.
Yep. Yep. Mexico, we got
Yeah.
another 30, 40. And then we've got Jamaica, Ecuador, Kenya, Canada. And I think there's someone
Wow.
in Britain randomly. I think there's like a
Just
content
just for
writer or
the
something.
accent. Yeah.
Not necessarily. They just write all day, so I don't even think they talk to anyone.
Wow. That's great. Right. Oh wow, this is incredible. Like this is something we're struggling with. I mean, we're nowhere the size of the company you are, but like the challenge that we have is people in India, Philippines, Bangladesh, US. It's so hard. People working different time zones, different languages, different cultures. Like, how do you bring everyone together? Like some of the things we do on Slack, just share some good news. And then one thing we do is my assistant, she knows everyone's birthday. So we'll send everyone a cake and a gift, on their birthday. So it just kind of, and then we throw it in Slack, people share pictures of the cake. But that's
Hmm.
that's always been a challenge for me personally as the CEO. Like, how do we like, have a unified company culture? We still haven't like found a solution. But I like the idea of like doing some Zoom games and like talent shows. I think that's a great idea.
Employee the one thing that was massive for us was the employee newsletter. So we didn't have that for ever, and I wanted it, but I'm not going to write a newsletter. And
Yeah.
so we outsourced marketing for the first 8 years or something like that. I think we
Okay.
finally brought marketing in house in 2020, 2019. It was pre-COVID. Um, but once we brought marketing in house, then we're able to do more. And so we started doing this newsletter. It's like an 8 pager every month that shows anniversaries, new hires, birthdays, shout outs for managers, like all these different things. And the team just absolutely ate it up. They love, love, love when you see your manager shouting you out or some other
I
staff member
love
in
that
there.
idea. Is it possible to get a copy of the newsletter?
Yeah, I'll give you a
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah. I would love that. I love that idea. Love that. It
Yeah.
just it makes everyone feel more connected.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you're not just like a person behind the screen. There's like, more to it, like your kids, you share pictures of your kids and whatnot. I love the idea of like the guy who does, sailing, he said in Ecuador,
Yeah, yeah, he does.
sharing, yeah, videos. I think that's
There's a guy
great.
in
Yeah.
Mexico that can dribble a soccer ball for basically for infinity. He just sits, just
Wow.
never move. The ball just goes in the same spot, and so he just sits there and he'll
That's
send videos of him doing trick shots and stuff. But
nice.
yeah, the newsletter is big. There's a lot of different things you can do, but at the end of the day, it's just connecting with them, caring about them, asking them how they're doing. If you sense there's something off, give them time off if
Yeah.
they need it. They don't have the best healthcare in other countries, so we got to be mindful of that. That it's not easy to just go to the doctor and come back and work. Like it's not always that easy for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing we started doing with, especially with the team in Philippines, is every week, the lead of our Philippine team sends an anonymous feedback request from our team members and saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience working with REsimpli? Like one being, hey, I'm already out of here. You're going to see my 2 week notice tomorrow. 10 being, this is absolutely the best, place in the world. If it's anything less than 10, we ask them, hey, what can we do to make it 10? So there's some really interesting feedback that comes out of it. And,
Yes.
just every week making some tweaks. That's been really good for us.
Yeah, that's
So
really good. We have a feedbacks box in each of our offices, and that was big pre-COVID. And so it's just
yeah,
a black box on the wall, and you can just drop it in there. There's paper and pen, and I would go in there once a month, and I would just open them up and be like, "Oh wow, we've got like 5 people that are pretty upset about the same thing. I should probably do something about this. I didn't even know."
absolutely.
And so we're pretty quick to change stuff. If it makes sense financially, or now it doesn't have to be or it's going to make the employees happier and more productive, et cetera. We're generally going to do it. If you can get both, it's a
Right.
no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's great your company to be so nimble and then be able to make changes. I mean, 200 plus employees, 250. That's not a small company. That's a big size company, and still be able to, be tuned in to what the employees are doing, like what they're thinking, like asking them about their families and stuff. That goes to show like the amazing culture you guys have built. All right.
Yeah.
That's been great. I want to ask you about, it's still incredible that you guys manage majority of it single family residential properties. Like how's the experience been? So you have about like what, 4,500, 5,000 like single family, like 1 to 4 unit.
Yeah,
How's
something like that.
that, how's that managing those tenants, versus managing tenants that are in large apartments? What is that like? What are some of the best practices? Someone who's listening, has some rental properties. What's the best practice you've noticed to keep a tenant happy, find a good tenant, and have them pay on time and keep them happy for a long time?
Oh, okay, so the angle of how do we as a property management company, so
Right.
the single family stuff. I mean, it's simple things like at move-in day, give them a bottle of wine. We use Appfolio for our software, which is incredible.
Okay. Right.
It'll send happy birthday messages to them, et cetera. Our PMs follow up with delinquency every Friday. So if somebody hasn't paid, they're gonna get a call. And we're not ones that are just gonna like blast you and say, pay or you're out, right? We actually work with our tenants. And so we have a spreadsheet of it's probably 75, 80 programs right now where a tenant can reach out and get funding to pay their rent. And so we're not just going to say, hey, man, you're not paying your rent. We're filing. You're out of here. We're going to say, hey, we want to make sure you're not out of here. We know you have a kid there. We know you have dogs, whatever. Like we want to make sure you're taken care of. There's 75 places right here that can help you out. They may not all have money right now, but they generally do. And so start reaching out. And oftentimes, if it's bad enough, we'll apply for them. Like we'll have them
Okay.
sign
Wow.
like something giving us permission, but you know what? Sign this, we'll take care of it. Because at the end of the day, we're working for the owner. The tenant's the
Right.
customer, the owner is our client, is kind of how we talk internally. And so
Right.
owner has to come first. Bay management doesn't get paid unless rent comes in. And so we want to work with that tenant to get that rent in so we can take our fee. And so the owner can then, pay their mortgage and get their profit and what have you. So I think it comes down to just working with tenants. I'm big into KPIs and dashboards. So I have a lot of KPIs I look at.
What are some of the important KPIs that you're tracking for your property management business?
Yeah. Yeah, vacancy rate, averaged turnover time. So how long is it taking us to get a property turned over for the next renter? Maintenance requests, how quickly can we get those done on average? Average days on market. I can go on. 60 of them, I think, right now.
Right.
A lot of them around delinquency. We track it on
Okay.
like a portfolio level, an individual PM level, a city level. We're looking at a lot of things like
Wow.
that. And so pretty much any,
It's the accounting background. It's the accounting background. Isn't that amazing? It's so funny. Like some of the KPIs that you're talking about, we track the same thing in our property management business, like very, very granular. Yeah, you have to. And I checked on your website. You guys have less than 1% eviction rate, right?
that's
Wow,
right.
that's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
So you guys are putting a lot of effort upfront to
tons.
make sure that you find a good quality tenant so you don't have to deal with eviction for a long time.
Yes.
Especially in some of the states where you guys are operating, it can be very lengthy process, I assume.
Yes, yes. Screening, you want to talk about the importance of property management and, with your investment, protecting it, screening. Honestly, it all comes down to screening. If
Yeah.
you
Well,
screen and
what are some of your screening criteria that are like absolutely non-negotiable?
oh yeah, you got to have, depending on the market, right? So each market, but I'll just talk in general.
Right.
3 to 4 times you get the rent. You got to make that monthly into your salary. Criminal record, again, depends on area. Some areas you can't even look at that now, which is crazy to me. But criminal
But you
record, we're
can
going to
look at
look
the
at
criminal record?
some areas you can't now.
Wow,
Yeah, I know
interesting.
Oakland's. I don't know if they did it already, but they're about to. They're Baltimore has a big homeless problem. There's like 700 homeless people or something like that, and there's only like 400 beds that they can stay in. I forget the recent stat, but
Oh,
they don't want people to be homeless. So Baltimore is very
oh, I
tenant
see.
friendly. Very
Right.
hard to get a tenant out in Baltimore, and there's squatters' rights too, where they can just you evict them and they just break in and start living there again, and you got to go to court all over again. You can't just remove them.
That's
And so
crazy.
yeah, so screening, we honestly we do the typical stuff that you would read all over the internet, but we do a really good
Yeah,
job. We don't slack on it. And it helps that the owner's mother is our application processor. So you better
nice.
believe she is all over that. And the leasing agents get paid 100% commission. And so when they bring a renter, an applicant in, she's gonna scrutinize the heck out of that application. Whereas they would be like, oh, I would put him. Of course you would put him in there. You're gonna get paid.
Right.
She is the stop. She is the nope. Find the next one. Keep it moving.
She's
And so
watching out. She's watching out for her son.
she's watching out for her son, who's watching out
Yeah,
for the owners. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Wow,
exactly
that's
right.
interesting.
And so we
Yeah,
like to, we like to look at things like where do you work? How long have you been there?
right.
It's not just what do you make? Have you been there 7 years and you've grown in that company? You sound pretty safe bet to me.
Yeah,
We do have a minimum credit score, but the report matters, in my opinion, more than the credit
and
score.
the number. Yeah,
I put somebody with a 500 credit score in one of my properties, and I didn't care. All of his money was made in cash, tips and whatnot.
yeah,
He had the same job forever. He had bad credit from when he was like 18. He was 30 now. I'm like, I don't care, man. Like, and he's
yep,
the best tenant I've ever had.
yeah. So you guys are just not doing anything like a secret sauce. It's like just following the simple process, but being very diligent about following that. You
Exactly.
know?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think there's anything we're doing that you're not going to read
yeah.
out there. That's pretty standard across the
Makes
board. We're
sense. Yeah.
just very diligent. We're pretty good at catching phony pay stubs and things like that. We're
It's
very
funny. I
good at.
had when I first started, someone gave me a fake paycheck, pay
Yeah.
stub. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh my God, I would have never expected that. I would have never
Oh, we
expected that.
we get it
Yeah.
all the time. We had somebody 2 years ago apply and move in. It was they stole somebody's identity and moved in and stopped paying rent right away. It took us like 8 months to get her out, and she went to jail. But ultimately,
Wow.
people are nuts. What the things they'll do to get housing.
Yeah. One thing I used to do when I first started investing, so I would have them fill out an application and ask them who your employer is and who your reference is or something, or who your landlord is.
Yeah.
And then I would purposely call the employer number and say, hey, you were put down as the landlord. Can you confirm? And it was funny sometimes. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. They were expecting a call as an employer. And then you could just tell that this person not an employer. And I would say, yeah, you were put down as the landlord of this person. Can you confirm? Like, oh, yeah, he stayed at my house. He was a great tenant, paid on time. I'm like, oh, come on. Yeah, it was just some of the stuff that people would come up with. And I had a guy. I'm sure you have these crazy stories all the time. I had a
Oh yeah.
guy, $600 a month in rent, and then he was making $500. I'm like, you don't make enough money. It's like, don't worry about it. I'll get the money. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It's like, yeah, no, bro, I got you. I'll get the money. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It was incredible.
Well,
Yeah, it's
you know what's strange to me is that people, so renting a property in my eyes is no different than leasing a car. It's like we're lenders essentially. We're not
right.
essentially, I say that, but it's like
Yeah,
you're signing a contract to rent a space to live there for a period of time. It's not yours, and there's requirements, et cetera, and then ultimately you have to give it back or you can buy
right,
it. But
right.
people with landlords, it's like this weird thing where tenants will like want to mark up our lease and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? You would never do that at Wells Fargo. Why are you doing that with us? Like, what is
Yeah,
going on here? Here's our lease agreement. If you want to move in, sign this and you can
right,
move in. Like, you're not,
right. Oh, they were trying to take stuff out.
oh yeah, I don't like that. Can you cross that line out and I'll initial it? No, no, our lease is our lease. Owners do the
Wow.
same thing. Owners do the same thing with our property management agreement. Hey, can we take that clause out of there? And it's like, who does this? With property
Yeah.
management, it's constant. I'm sure you see it too. It's
Oh
constant.
yeah. Yeah, no, my property manager, she calls me and like sometimes it's like one owner with one property tends to be so much trouble, takes most of the time. And we're like, hey, just tell the owner this is the policy that we have, and it's the same for everyone. If it doesn't work, we totally understand. We can hand over their stuff to another property management company. They're like, but we're not going to change our policy because of one individual. So yeah, people feel like, entitled that, hey, you're managing my property. I'm the owner, so I'm going to tell you how to manage, not you tell me how my property should be
Yeah,
managed.
it's
So
rough. And
it
we
is.
we fire owners. We probably fire, I mean, I'm not joking you, 15 to 20 owners a year between our
Oh
all of
wow.
our
I'm
offices.
curious
Yeah.
for what reason they're being too demanding.
Too demanding. They may want us to get like 7, 8, 9 quotes on a water heater that's not
Oh
working
wow.
when the tenant
Yeah.
hasn't had water in 3 days. It's like, come on. Or they don't have any money and there's like some serious issue at the property. We have to do this or we're
Right.
going to get sued by the tenant. Fair housing issues. So a lot of owners will want to get you to break fair housing laws. And it's like, no, no,
Oh
we didn't
yeah,
make
no,
this up.
totally.
This is a HUD thing. This isn't us.
Right.
We're not going to discriminate on your behalf. We can't do that. And then owners will be persistent with that. And it's like,
Right.
it's just not a good fit. It's just not a good fit for us. So, it's the 80-20 rule at the end of the day. Back in 2016, this is crazy. I don't know if anyone ever did this before. I went around to all the property managers in our company. I said, give me 2 owners that you want to fire. And literally they all came back in like 10 minutes. Oh my God, here.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
And this was
That's a
a morale thing. We were having a difficult morale in the office and I had a meeting and I was like, what's going on, everyone? Why is everyone so upset? And they're like, you guys are just bringing on any old owner and property in the worst areas. And they're like, these owners are impossible. They're slumlords. They're hard to deal with. Every one of you give me 2 owners and I'll fire them right now. And I did that. I fired like 20 owners in one day. And I kid you not, the frowns went to smiles just like that. And our culture
wow.
from there on never went backwards.
That's that's such a great thing for you to do. Yeah,
Think about it.
it's
You're
yeah,
managing, so
absolutely.
these people manage 100 to 150 doors, and these are single family homes with 100 to 150 owners, not just a 100
Right.
unit building with
Oh
one
wow.
one owner, right?
Yeah. So you have
So
100
imagine that.
tenants, 100 owners. Wow, that's
And
that's a lot.
it's a tug of war
Yeah.
match, and you're in the middle. And so
Yeah.
we recognize that the property manager is the nucleus and is in that, right? They're representing our company.
Yeah.
Now, if they're unhappy because of these 2 owners, I would gladly remove them so they can provide good service to the other
Right, right.
148.
I'm curious, do you qualify your owners also before managing their property?
You know, kind
Is there a
of,
way to even do that? Yeah.
not really.
Not
So
right.
the only way we currently qualify the owner is, man, I just had this conversation last week. Our new business development managers, and they're 100% commission too, but they're honest dudes
Okay.
that have been here for a long time, all of them. And so if the owner right out of the gate is like argumentative with them or just being
Right.
unrealistic with expectations or combative with our property management agreement, they'll reach out to me or the owner and just request, hey, do you want to bring this owner on or not? Like, if they have 1 unit, the answer is almost always no. If they have, 5,
Right.
10, 15, it's like, all right, let's give them a shot and see how it goes. Maybe it's just a bad
Right.
first impression. But other than like their mindset, their attitude, etc., there's not much else you can really qualify them with. If they've got a property that
Yeah.
qualifies in an area, etc., we're not asking them for like bank statements or running their credit or criminal, or
Right.
I'm sure we've got some
Yeah.
owners that are criminals. We just don't know.
You don't have any minimum number units someone needs to have before you'll manage their properties? If they're one, you'll take them
We'll take one.
as clients.
Yep,
Interesting.
absolutely.
What's your plan for next 3 to 5 years? Like,
Grow into 10 new markets around the United States. So right now we have one hub, which is basically the, Baltimore, Philly, Northern Virginia, DC. We want to move out to like Texas, maybe down to Florida. We're working with a few investors right now to kind of go nationwide. So hopefully you guys hear us on the radio and see us on TV in the next couple of years. That's kind of where we're going.
awesome. Yeah, good luck with that. Do you guys have a unit number in mind? Is that the metrics, the biggest kind of North Star that you follow, number of units to manage?
No, and I know a lot of property managers do. Number of units is great. And when someone says I manage 6,500 or I manage 500, obviously the one that manages 65, I'm like, holy smokes. I know a
Yeah.
company that manages 3,000 doors that makes no money. So at the end of the
Wow.
day, you can manage as many doors as you want. If your margins suck, it is what it is.
Oh man, you're speaking my language.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I love that. I
the
love
biggest
that.
accounting, man. So
Yeah.
we're looking at margins. I care more about margin than I do door count.
How much discount do you give to owners that have, like, let's say, more than 20, 30 units, or is it same for everyone?
So if we're talking single family homes, we actually never have. Owners have never asked us to. With the multifamily, so we got a guy that has a 92 unit building or so. Our standard management fee is 8%. For him, I think he gets like 5. But then also he has his
Okay.
own property manager on site that he pays for. So
Okay,
it's
okay.
but we
Yeah.
don't
So it kind
charge
of offsets that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but we don't charge any other fees. All he gets charged is a management fee. Whereas other owners, you've got your leasing fee, your renewal fee.
Right.
There's the maintenance coordination stuff. None of that with multifamily.
Got it. Yeah. And all your maintenance is in-house?
For the multifamily, yes. Oh no, all the maintenance. No, no, no,
Maintenance.
no.
No.
No. So
Okay.
for the multifamily, most of it is. For single family, I'd say half of it is. So our
Okay. So
guys,
you have like contractors, preferred contractors that you're working,
oh
vendors that you're working with.
yes. Oh yeah, many of them.
Yeah.
So the outside parties will do, new roofs, new water lines, new plumbing lines. If we need to do all new siding or something, we don't have crews of guys here. Each office
Okay.
has maybe 5 handymen. And so they're doing,
Okay.
quick repairs and painting and turnovers but they're not out there on roofs doing heavy lifting or anything like that.
Got it. Got it.
Too much of a liability,
Tony,
man.
no, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, property management, it's not an easy business to run. I kid you not. I've had my property manager cry on the phone like 2 or 3 times, just like how difficult it can be dealing with the tenants. It's incredibly difficult business to run. Yeah.
I cannot explain how difficult property management is to people. My
Yeah.
wife's a nurse and she stepped out of clinical before COVID, thank God. But before that she was in the ICU and she would come home in tears sometimes. And it was a different level of difficult. It was the
Yeah.
hospital treated her poorly, all the staff really. And then the patients were so demanding, similar to some tenants can be. She's over there literally cleaning their bodies and helping them to the
Ooh.
bathroom and they're yelling at her.
Oh
So
my
she would
God.
come home very defeated
Yeah.
because of that. And then I would share my stories and I'm like, man, it's a different level of
Yeah.
difficulty, but property managers are chewed up and spit out by owners and
Oh
tenants
my God.
all the time. So you got to really make it a priority to treat your
Yeah.
staff extra, extra good.
Yeah. It's one of those roles where both parties that you're serving, owner and tenant, no one is happy. They're all complaining. I feel like all the time for the most part. I've literally had my property manager cry on the phone, and
Hmm.
she's God bless her. She's been with me for 4 years.
She's a
I pay her
warrior.
well. She gets like profit sharing and everything.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it's a very, very difficult business. Yeah.
I kid
It's
you not, man.
yeah.
I'm like borderline a therapist at our company, and I've been that way
Yeah.
for a
Oh,
long
I
time.
can totally understand.
Actually
I
got
can
to the
totally.
point where I went and saw my own therapist because I'm like, I need to learn from you
Yeah.
so I can then
Oh,
go to them.
100%. Oh, 100%. I can totally imagine. It's a very difficult business.
It
Tony,
is.
thank you so much. This has
Yeah.
been, I cannot tell you how, like, I feel like I connected with you on a different level, being accounting, talking KPIs, data. You're speaking my love language, makes me so happy. Like, it was just, I love that answer that it's not the number of units, it's the margin.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the best answer. Yeah, that's what you
it
got to look
is.
at. I would rather have 1,000 units to manage, but incredibly profit, then 3,000 units are not making any money. What's the point? Who do
Yeah.
I have to impress by the number of units? I love
And,
that.
and it's pretty
All
cool.
right.
I can look at someone's company in 10 minutes probably and tell you, hey, cut 50 units, add these 3 different technologies, your staff's going to be happier.
I
Like
love that.
it took a long time to do it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the way to go. And I appreciate it. Feel free to reach out offline and chat some more, man.
Yeah, I might. We have a couple of last questions for you. I don't even know if this is something you'll answer. Like, what do you do for fun?
What do I
you know,
do for fun?
what do you do for fun? Yeah,
Oh
other
my
than
God.
like
It-
just sharing all these fun tenant stories.
so I got a 2-year-old. He'll be 2 in 2 months. He's our first and only,
Nice.
I believe. So my time is absolutely consumed with him right now, and I love it.
Right.
But aside from that, I like playing poker, basketball.
Oh,
I'm in a
love it.
basketball
Texas
league.
Hold'em.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, yep. I like
Nice,
house
nice,
games. I like house cash games. I'll do a tournament here and
nice.
there, but yeah, poker, basketball, any sports, just watching
I
sports,
love it. Yeah,
journaling, reading. I probably read a book a
yeah.
week. Um,
Nice.
I get down with the Netflix too. I've got a couple series
Awesome.
going on right now.
Any fun one that you're watching?
Tires. Have you?
Tires?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
tires with it's
No.
got oh God, it's all comedians like stand-up comedy.
Oh,
It's
really?
big.
I was just gonna say I love watching stand-up comedy, so I'm gonna check that out.
It's got Stavy. I forget. He's from
Okay.
Baltimore. I should know this. And then
Okay.
Billis. I forget the guy's name.
Okay.
But anyway, it's basically Napoleon Dynamite in a show. I find it
Okay.
hysterical. I
All
like
right,
dry
cool.
humor. So
Yeah, I'll check it out.
yeah, man.
And so since you read a lot, what's
Yep.
the one book that's had the most influence, impact in your life? It could be a personal book, business book, or one of each.
God, and I've listened to so many podcasts, starting with Bigger Pockets for like ever. I don't want to be cliche and say Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's true. When I
Yeah,
first read that book,
that is the most, like number one answer right now
I
on
grew
the
up poor,
podcast.
man. I grew up
Yeah,
in a blue collar family with the poor dad mentality. They didn't understand any of the stuff I'm talking about. And so, yeah, growing businesses and things like Rich Dad changed my whole perspective. I didn't even
yeah,
understand what that meant when I first read it. I was like, wait a minute, I can do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the other one, The Compound Effect, I was a big fan
Oh
of.
yeah, Darren
That was
Hardy.
good.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's a
yep.
great book.
And then what was
Yeah,
the Jocko Willink? God, it's been a couple
Extreme
years.
Accountability. Yeah,
Extreme
it's a
Ownership.
great Extreme Ownership. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yep.
it's great.
So
All
those ones,
right.
Dave Goggins, all that stuff. The more ruthless a speaker is, the more I like it. Call me weird, but like Goggins, where he's
You need
saying,
to be
"Quit
in
being a
property
pansy,
management.
get to work." Like I
You
just love
need to
that.
be like that. You need that in property management business. I feel like you need to have like that, like thick skin. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Final question. If you could spend a day with anyone, dead or alive, who would you want to spend the day with and why?
Honestly, Esther Perel. Do you know who Esther Perel is?
No.
So she's a I don't even know how you would define her. She's an author. She's got a podcast, etc. Basically, she's probably the nicest human on the planet. She almost reminds me of like it's like a cross between Gandhi and I'm struggling to fit who I would put in who I'd put in there, but she's absolutely brilliant. She's taught me to essentially how to speak to people better, how to empathize with people. She's a therapist, but also author, etc. She speaks in front of
Hmm.
people. I would want to meet her and talk to her for sure.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
then
Great
Mark
answer.
Cuban would be fun as well.
Mark Cuban. Yeah, he seems like a lot of fun on Shark Tank. Yeah. Awesome, Tony. This has been incredible, man. I personally really enjoyed talking to you. All right,
Likewise.
someone wants to connect with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook all the time, Tony Cook,
Okay,
Jr. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's about it. I'm not really.
cool.
I'm working on being more public facing. I'm historically very behind the scenes, working internally with our company, but I'm doing podcasts and stuff now, so I'm gonna start ramping up my social. I got to
Absolutely,
talk
man. You
to.
should be. You
I
should be. You have an
know.
incredible story. You have incredible success. Yeah, you're doing so many great things. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. This has been absolutely incredible.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take care.